You're listening to 102.7 Chop FM, and this is ArtsTalk. Good evening. You're listening to 102.7 Chop FM, and this is ArtsTalk. I'm Dave Peters.
I'm Taylor Koss.
And this show is dedicated to bringing the arts to Newmarket. Not just the musical arts, although we always have lots of musicians, but any artist practicing any discipline, be they amateur or professional. Mm-hmm. If you're in the arts and would like to appear on this show, then we'd like to hear from you.
You can be in touch with us by email. That's artstalkradio102.7@gmail.com. Or you could send us a message on Facebook, look up Arts Talk Radio, and there we are.
Do it. And don't forget to listen every Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Pretty much
on
sharp. Look at us on the dot.
Jesus.
To hear good music and to find out what's happening in the independent art scene. Our guest tonight is Scott Reid. Scott, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having us.
We're a pleasure to have you. Why don't you introduce your posse? You brought a lot of people here tonight.
I have a very special guest with me to help sort of discuss the project and perform a little piece of it for everybody. I have Luisa Barbosa.
Hi.
Hi, Luisa.
She's an extraordinarily talented local musician. She's absolutely extraordinary. And if you ever have the opportunity to search her and see some of her performances, or better yet, go see her live, please do.
Well, Scott, we'll be the judge of that, okay?
We get to hear it. It's exciting.
How did you meet Luisa?
Luisa came into my life. She's connected through a fellow alumni of the college I attended, Harris Institute, and the 6 degrees of separation, the way they always work. I was speaking with my friend, and he directed me toward Luisa when I discussed the project with him. I said I am looking for many languages to become involved in a project, and he right away said, "Are you looking for Portuguese?" And I said, "Yes, I absolutely am." I said, "Do you know a Portuguese vocalist?" And he said, "I think I might. Let me check around." And immediately he sent me a link to her stuff.
Nice.
I was very, very impressed. And Luisa and her father came to the studio, and we met for the first time and sort of just discussed the project. And I think from that moment, I've been a big fan. So I'm super happy that Luisa came into my life through those 6 degrees of separation.
The project is what we're going to discuss.
That's what's a secret right now. Let's get to know each other.
But Luisa, when you first heard of this contact, what was your reaction?
I thought it was really cool, especially doing it in a bunch of different languages, and I was super excited that he considered me to be part of it.
Mm-hmm. It's very, very cool. So you went to Harris Institute. That's a music school, right?
That's a music industry
for
school.
For recording? Or?
Yeah, for audio, yeah.
So is that what you do for a living?
Yeah, you could say that.
That's awesome. No, that's really cool.
No, many things take place, and yeah, production is definitely part of it.
Awesome.
I opened a small label called Live Large Music last May, sort of as a vessel to carry this project into this year and beyond. And I have some other projects lined up, but unfortunately this has taken precedence, and it looked great on paper, and the roadmap seemed easy to follow, but I'll be the first to tell you that it has been such an extraordinary adventure, meeting people, interacting with people globally, and realizing how small yet how large our planet can be at moments. Mm-hmm. For example, I have, well, you know what? I'm getting ahead of myself. Harris Institute definitely honed some of my production skills, but
Great.
I have been producing since 2006.
Okay.
I'm a songwriter first and foremost, and I started capturing my performances just so I wouldn't lose my songs anymore. I don't know how many napkins and cigarette packages with lyrics on them with charts and ended up lost. So you can't ever get those things back. So recording is, I would tell any young artist, record everything you do, whether it's with your iPhone or some sort of single mic capture. You should always be in record.
I totally
That's
agree.
where the magic
is. What happened in 2006 that caused you to become devoted to the recording business?
Well, I had my first child was born in 2002.
Right.
So by 2006, he was so involved with playing the many instruments that he had strewn about the house around him. I wanted to teach him a little bit about it, and I thought I needed to figure it out first in order to be a good, a good assistant in that capacity. So I think it was a combination of that and just being at the right moment in my life where I had pushed music back enough for the proverbial day job. And I had left the band after 5 or 6 years, and we were at an excellent point in our career. And I chose parenting, full-time parenting, instead of touring. So I guess I kind of felt a loss at that point. But I mean, I surrounded my son with music, so I nurtured the next generation of music in my son. And by 2006, it was just time. He was 4. He was very interested in all of the instruments and making things up and writing little stories to sing. So I thought we need to capture these things. So I just started filling hard drives, and I've written well over 1,000 songs now, probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
1,000.
That's crazy.
Yeah, in many different genres, and I think really what ended up happening once I realized I could capture it all and have fairly decent quality demos of everything. I would spend hours just writing in front of Pro Tools and capturing what came out. So
you'd been playing instruments and singing for a while.
Yeah, I was raised singing in church choir, so I sang from an early age. The first instruments I picked up were horns, so I've been playing horns since my early childhood.
Which ones?
I play trumpet, trombone, and other valve things like tuba and baritone.
French horn? Any French horn?
No French horn.
See,
no,
it takes
I know.
Skill to play
It certainly
It
does
takes
take an
skill, too.
extra amount of skill. Absolutely, I'm not gonna.
The French horn sound is so great, don't you think?
It has
think
this like
It's
classic
that
thing going.
it's that mournful sound that the French horn.
Absolutely, and I think the hand muffle, working with the valving it's a different art form than most horns, right? So and after that came bass guitar, because everybody else in this band we were putting together already wanted to play guitars.
Right.
I said I'll play that thing, and I really enjoyed it, and that really was my first love as a musical instrument, and all of the gigging and touring and stuff that I did in my youth was as a bass player. So.
Were you playing covers back in that day?
No, it's always been original for me.
Is that right?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's there's something about it. For me, I love hearing people do fantastic renditions and stuff, but I think when 5 guys plug in, they should be as creative as possible, or 5 girls, or any combination of that. Everybody should be as creative as possible, and I don't necessarily believe that playing covers all the time is the best thing for me, although I do play tons because people love to hear them.
Yeah.
But I always try and find unique arrangements of everything, so they're not quite the cover that you would expect, and I just try and make everything my own anyway. So it's always been original music for me.
Sometimes I ask the question of everybody because sometimes it gives us a signal about the kind of music you like, and the sort of originals that you play are usually rooted in the bands you loved as a kid.
Yeah. Well, I think growing up was all over the map. My grandmother had her younger 2 boys living with her, so it was all over the map. There was reggae and death metal all in the same house, all on the same day sometimes.
There's a combo.
It depends on who was DJing that day, right? At home it was a lot of country and western, and of course the church influence brought a lot of harmonic listening, I guess. I really love the harmony in music, and I strive to create harmony in every way that I possibly can, because nothing quite sounds as beautiful as hearing several things resonating at the same time.
You're right. There's something about that sends chills up your spine.
Yes,
Yeah.
So,
and it does for everybody.
yes, it really does.
the
So,
magic
so
of
if you can translate those harmonies that you choose appropriately, it's almost worth the song just to hear the harmonies, So moving on from that, I started writing on guitar. Obviously, I write on piano. I've owned as many as 21 instruments at the same time. All kinds of strings, viola. I had an electric viola for a while, which was really cool, plugged into an amp with some distortion. I'm not going to lie. That was a fun experience.
That's awesome.
I will pick that up again. But for now, it's pretty much guitar and piano are my writing tools. When I allow myself to actually sit down and do it. So,
do you have collaborators? Do you have a band?
I love collaborating. Yeah. And no, I haven't had a band in quite some time. But I'm always about the co-writes and getting together with people and throwing ideas off each other, and maybe helping somebody finish that song that they've never finished, or likewise somebody hearing one of my little self-possessed ideas that I fiddle around with while I'm tuning, and they go, I really like that. Have you ever done anything with that? I'm hearing these lyrics, and I'm like, wow, I've written lyrics 10 times, and I've never settled on any, so please have at it. No, so I think it's key in an original situation to have collaborators, even if it's just a sounding board, to throw ideas off of. We can't hear everything, and certainly as a producer, you cannot hear the same thing over and over and over again and not lose a piece of it. So it's great to have fresh ears all the time.
Absolutely. You're listening to 102.7. This is ArtsTalk. I'm Taylor Koss.
I'm Dave Peters.
And we are in conversation with Scott Reid. Scott, so you're here to talk about a specific project, a specific endeavor. Why don't you describe that to us?
Okay, I touched upon the label itself as a vessel to carry this project. So this project is called the Littlest You Project, and it is, I tend to interchangeably call it the Littlest You Global Project because it really has reached that point. Over the course of any given week, I can be having conversations with people on 4 continents at the same time.
Fun.
Yeah, and the internet has really made that possible. Like, this whole concept of what I'm doing right now was born in probably 2008 when I began online collaborating. I joined a couple of Mac-specific websites where you could just upload and have people give feedback for new producers and experienced alike. But it was a really nice way to meet people and realize, wow, like, I just got that track and I sang vocals for 2 hours and I'm getting a mix back 2 hours later. So the song was born to me 4 hours ago and we're mixing it from opposite ends of the planet. So it really made me realize that musically we are not inhibited by anything at this point. Distance, technology. Music is at a point now where it is so accessible to people of all different skill levels. So to inspire somebody who's never touched any kind of digital audio workstation to want to capture their own music that way is huge, but the capabilities are there. Most Mac, Apple products come loaded with GarageBand, which is a ready-to-use DAW that actually is pretty powerful for the most part. A couple of my earlier collaborations were done exclusively in GarageBand.
Really?
Yeah, and I was a hotshot using Pro Tools.
Exactly. I was going to say, how do you find it compares?
Well, you know what? It's all a preference, to be quite honest.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Same functionality in
GarageBand? There is. I mean, there's obviously limitations. Pro Tools really is more of a professional suite, but I think with anything, whether it be old Fostex 4 tracks or 8 tracks or whatever back in the day onto cassette, you had to push the envelope. You had to really make the equipment work for you. Well, now the equipment can work harder than you ever can. So it's limitless. The plugins available just to alter the sound of music is amazing. So now I personally think you can overuse those tools, and they get overused far too much. So as a producer, I'm far more bare bones live sound. I really like that live texture where things rub against each other a little bit and create a bit of friction. Things don't have to be so smooth and polished.
And perfect, yeah.
Right, the digital purity.
It's interesting when you go, yeah.
It is. We lost the original question. Which
the
was,
project.
What are we here
so
for?
the project itself, the Littlest You project, began when I, unfortunately, I had my second child in 2010, Madeline, and she was born premature. But it's funny, I told you about the way that my writing works, inspiration comes from all different places. So I was literally singing the first verse and the first refrain to the belly, like, preparing for this person to join me, and I wasn't going to finish the song until she was born, as I had done previously with my son. I wrote a song for him and finished it when he was born, right? So I was really at that stage, and then things went terribly wrong, and she was born within about a week of that starting point. So she was born premature and very small. We stayed for 1 month in Hamilton because she was born at McMaster University and was the smallest baby on the NICU the whole time. She was only 1 pound. So Madeline only lived for 1 month, but in that month we stayed at Ronald McDonald House, and I actually recorded the first demo in their boardroom there. As I was writing on the go, here's this child that I thought I had another 3 months to consider lyrics and whatever. So they just came to me, so I recorded it, and I promised them that if I ever released the song, then I would share proceeds, which I have. 50% of the proceeds from the original Littlest You goes directly to Ronald McDonald House, Hamilton. Nice. Yeah, and that is sort of what the project is about. There's a similar charitable component in each case. So the project has now been translated, well, it's been released in 10 languages. So English and French, I performed myself with the help of an associate I had met through this online community of musicians, which is amazing.
Tu parles bon français?
No. N'est-ce pas? No, growing up in Ontario, and especially in the Catholic school system, there's more of an emphasis on French. So the retention was probably higher for me than others. But to be quite honest, I didn't really start speaking French till I moved to BC. And I met a lot of Québécois there. And there was a language barrier, so I obviously could speak French enough that I could communicate with them who spoke no English. A lot of northern towns. It was during the referendum. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember it very well.
Yes, so the young people were fleeing, and that's where I actually spoke French pretty much the whole year I was there. I spoke French probably 30% of the time.
Really?
Yes, in my broken hack and slash way.
You can order breakfast in French now.
Yeah, I'm blanking on how to say eggs.
So I learned the song phonetically because in French, because the poetry is so rich. There's words I've never even encountered in a conversation, right? And I guess because the song is written as a lullaby, it was very important to my associate Terry in Paris that he put as much of his culture into it as possible, and that's really what started the ball rolling. I started to realize that everybody needed to do that. They needed to put their culture into this song so that the people who inevitably would be hearing it in their own language and understanding it in their own language would be feeling the emotion in their own language and the way their culture allows. So to date, English and French, Italian was the first international version that was completed. And you need to understand that artists that have become involved, there's no prerequisite. There's no skill set that's required. I don't need to see all of your links in order for it to work. It's more of a willingness.
You just need to be game.
It's a willingness to take on. What I think is a fairly large role to represent your entire culture within one song, knowing that song will be replicated in many other languages, and you are the one person. Sorry to put all of that on you, but you did a fantastic job,
Thank
Elisa.
You.
Yes, I was awestruck, really, when she delivered the vocals to me. It was
setting the bar high, Louisa.
Yeah, she did. In fact,
this is a song that started out as a celebration of the birth of your daughter.
Yes, it did. Really.
Did it turn into something different?
I think lyrically, it had about 3 stages. Obviously, the beginning was very hopeful. What is this little woman going to be like?
Exactly.
And I didn't go too far into the story itself because it was only beginning. Yeah. So when I got to the boardroom, there was still a lot of hope, and there was a lot of looking to the future. So those textures have sort of remained in the song. excuse me, and it actually tells the story quite clearly, because in my heart, when I sing this song, I'm singing to my daughter, right? So I think most people who have encountered the song and made it their own have felt that sort of timeline. So there's the beginning, and then there's the hope in the middle, and then there's the realization after the break. And the break is somewhat like a dream for me. It's like what I would imagine happening, more so than any fact. So it's definitely open for interpretation lyrically when somebody's translating it, because it's just very poetic and full of imagery. So I think the translation, and maybe you guys can tell me, the translation is probably the hardest part, because you need to take this story, which has a very powerful meaning to the writer, and say it in such a way that you're impacting people who speak your language the way you were first impacted by the song. So I think it's a huge challenge, and every translator that's been involved, whether it's for Hindi or Swahili or Mandarin, I think each one of them has made a choice. I'm going to just tell the story without my emotion involved, or I'm going to throw myself at it, and I'm just going to give everything I possibly can to this. And usually there's somewhere in the middle is where these initial translations start, and then a vocalist will get involved and help make it more melodic and rhythmic, so that it fits with this very Western sort of melody, right? And so I think there really is a two-part, unless it's one person who's doing all of that from beginning to end, and they're going to deliver the vocal. There usually is two parts to the translation. So for me at this point, I think the story being told even 10 different languages is huge. So I was telling you English, French, Italian, Portuguese, Japanese, Tagalog, Swedish, most recently Ojibwe, the first indigenous language that was an incredible experience being in the studio, and she brought a hand drum in, so it's just culturally
How do
correct.
people hear about this, Scott? Are you reaching out, or
I am. I made a promise to myself that I wouldn't hit this really hard with, again, like production. It has to be real. People have to feel the grit. Polish this up and package it up and make it as slick as possible. That's not what it's about. I want it to grow organically, and it's through moments like this where I'm able to just reach a couple more people, or a couple thousand more people, or however many I'm able to reach in one instance. I don't make a lot of noise about it, because there's so much work going on behind the scenes getting the job done. Each culture that gets added, it's my hope that as these numbers build, there's some unification between cultures, where it doesn't even matter where you are and what language you speak anymore, because you've all understood this concept. So this Littlest You project is, I don't want to say it's a life's work. It's something I will nurture for the rest of my life, but it has definitely, over the last year since it began, it has taken every energy, every emotion, every piece of my soul that I could give. It has taken it to get it to this point. And in hindsight, would that same situation have taken place if I had packaged it and polished it, and perhaps sought out some assistance with a major or a sponsorship of some kind with a corporation, rather than doing it dirty and indie, and knowing that if you build it, people will come to it. So it's very much under construction all the time behind the scenes. I was just speaking with a gentleman in Malawi, Africa, who is apologizing because the Swahili vocalist that he found to do the project found herself too busy with her studies. But he has found a replacement, and he was so overjoyed because this person is also going to sing in Chichewa, which is the native language of Malawi. So if for that one contact that I've been nurturing for 5 months, I now have 2 African versions.
Really?
Yeah. The first African version was released in December alongside Louisa's Portuguese. and the Italian. Those 3 were released all at the same time, as I had released the first 3 releases my company is publishing at the same time. So it is Yoruba, which is spoken in Western Africa and Nigeria. And same thing, just networking, cold calling, so to speak, through the internet. And just...
Are you rearranging the song for all the different languages, intonations? Oh, no, they're saying they're playing the same arrangement.
Yes, so the reason for that, I'm glad you brought that up, because as we know, there's many languages. I had no idea how many until I actually researched. There's about 6,900 recognized spoken languages on the planet. The Guinness World Record for
You
most...
have a long way to go, too.
I don't have to have them all, but would I die a happy man if that happened?
Logical
Absolutely.
land, right? 6,900.
Absolutely. So the current Guinness World Record in this sort of category is 125. Currently, we have about 50 on the go. 10 that are released. Just today, I uploaded Danish. That's the 10th. So that has been added to our released pile. But there's so much going on behind the scenes. Korean, Vietnamese, Thai, Burmese, Mizo, which is spoken in a very remote part of India.
Really?
Yeah. Yes.
Can we ask, Louisa, when you saw the lyric, did you see it in Portuguese first or in English?
I first heard it in English, but actually seeing the lyrics, it was Portuguese, and it was like the first translation.
Does it work as well in Portuguese?
It does, yeah. My dad and I did some tweaking with the original translation because it was very literal. And
which happens.
Now it makes a lot more sense, and we're super happy with it.
And what languages like Japanese, though, the sounds, the intonations, Mandarin, the rhyming, all the other things you'd look for in a lyric. I can't even imagine how that would work.
It's funny you would say that, because the Eastern Asian languages have proven to be the most difficult. Tagalog and Japanese have both been released. The next one is most likely, from that part of Asia anyway, is most likely going to be Vietnamese. But there's, those sort of inflections and stuff like that. That's what make all of this so difficult at the translation level, because you, as an artist, you have to look forward and you have to hear how it's going to sound later as you're creating it, right?
You're counting beats to a certain extent too, right? As a songwriter, you want to hit where you want to hit.
So Japanese was the first Asian release, and I could not be more happy. Just the way that it came about. You can feel in all of these versions that in order to say everything that needs to be said, there's an exchange, right? There's not as much latitude, I think, that we take for granted in our language, especially if you're telling a story and you're trying to maintain all of the integrity about the story, which everybody clearly is. So, but I could not be more happy with the way that the Japanese turned out. She sent me one sort of trial run, and I have said this to every single female vocalist: don't sing it like me. Don't sing in my key, please.
Don't come down to me.
Don't sing in my key. So everybody has sort of had that wall they hit where they're like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work, because they're trying so hard, because I guess they know the importance of this song, and they're trying so hard to emulate me and their language, and that is not what this is about. This is about using those stems, those musical stems, to create new versions. That's all it's about. I left an extra sparse musical bridge, hoping it would inspire people to use some of their native instruments, right? And so far it's happened. There's been hand drums a couple times, but I'm super stoked moving into like sort of northeastern Asia, that some very cool stringed instruments going to appear in the tracks I get back, right? So just while I'm touching upon that, it's amazing how this happens. I send out, I don't want to be an audio nerd at this point, but I send out a single wave file that has everything but vocal mixed into it. So it's a music only stem. I send it to them. They create the lyrics with it, and then I sing alongside it in a studio. And a lot of it's happening in studios that are far less set up than you guys, right? Like especially in these remote areas. So I'm happy that it's happening at all. And sometimes the quality that I've heard come back it's impressed me, because I'm like, you can just tell it wasn't recorded with a condenser mic, but what is it recorded with? Is that right through the laptop and somebody's being very careful? there's just there's no way to really tell, because I mean there's a quality that one would expect from music in general at a certain professional level, and then there's a quality that sort of comes from, like I said earlier, just using the tools that you have to the fullest and pushing those envelopes. And I am almost certain when I got back the African lyrics, and it's just the lyrics I got back in waveform, so I can pull them into the master session and mix and be done with it and try and have some continuity between each version, right? But I swore to Elaine, I said, it sounds like Africa. Just the harmony choices, and I guess you could feel that it was probably recorded in a very small, cramped room that gets overused because it's one of few in that area. And I was just very happy to get them back as quickly as I did. Yeah, every version is a new adventure for me, and seeing them unfold. The Portuguese session was outstanding because I actually got to engineer it myself, and that hasn't happened as much as I would have thought. To be honest, with Toronto being such a diverse city, I thought, okay, I can find a vocalist here. I have the capabilities to record it here. As long as this person who's translating is okay with that, we have the technology, right? But there hasn't been a response. So I'm hoping that talking about it a little bit more might open that up, because most of us speak at least one language fluently, and some of us speak 3. So it stands to reason that some of those vocalists that you hear singing also sing another language.
Sure.
Louisa, I believe, sings in 4 languages.
Oh, gosh.
Skill.
Is this correct?
Skill.
That's a little bit of an overstatement. Like, I've sung maybe one song in Italian my entire life.
Oh, jeez.
Well, still, you've sung
More than
more.
me.
Right, exactly, more than me, too.
Oh, by the way, Louisa's 14.
14.
Wow, I wanted to
She
ask
performed
you.
this at 13.
Wow.
Yes.
Is
Good
that
for
right?
you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, she's only sung one Italian song in her whole life.
Keep on going. That's awesome. That's
This
really
is
cool.
this is ArtsTalk on 102.7 Chop FM. We're in conversation with Scott Reid about a very interesting project. What do you think draws people to this, Scott? Is it some connection with the core subject matter? do you think?
I would like to believe it has a lot to do with transparency and just wearing it on the sleeve and putting it out there every time. When I approach somebody, I don't hold back. I make friends quickly. Business has allowed me to gain that skill. So I make friends quickly, but for the most part, I will know within 20 minutes if somebody might be interested. And you know what? Generally, after that 20 minutes, if that person isn't interested, they're talking about their brother or their grandmother or their mom or somebody else, because yes, I think it has something to do with the core subject, but it's the authenticity. And I think that's the biggest reason why I haven't marketed it. I haven't marketed it per se to be shiny. It's real. It's a very real thing. And unfortunately, I'm a one-man army still at this point, but I feel like I have allies everywhere now, and that's really rewarding at the end of the day, just to know that any given day I could get a random message, somebody just asking how my day is from the other side of the world. Oh, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. How have you been? What's going on? What progress have you made over here? So I would like to reach more people. So I'm sort of at a crossroads right now, just because the work is so mentally and physically, obviously living in all of those time zones simultaneously is draining. So I think I'd like to reach more people, and I believe 10 is a good number for me to perhaps think about making a physical copy, which would really help. I think people being able to actually access something like this. And of course, there'll be many volumes if it breaks the world record and we actually release this song in 126 languages. There'll be many volumes of this, or an anthology, if you will. So, but at this point, it's all digital, which is hard. Our digital world, things go by so quickly. Even things you love, you don't even know they were there, and they're gone before you realize it. So, I think it's really finding a nice little place in those people that it touches, and hoping that they join in on helping to share it within their own cultures. And that is essentially what I'm trying to do with this project.
So
it's just unify everybody.
if we go back to the point where you finished the song,
Yes.
I'm assuming this whole thing wasn't in your mind at that time.
Not entirely.
What first made you think of, why don't I record this in another language?
I think really what ended up happening is because not a lot of us, fortunately, have an opportunity in life to spend time in a place like Ronald McDonald House. Like there's a certain amount of us that would never understand that, and I was that person.
Right.
So for me, I didn't really understand exactly what they did, and I guess being inside of it and realizing how tremendously helpful the experience was to enjoy my daughter's life, I could not have enjoyed it the way that I did, obviously, without their assistance, right? It was 2.5 hours from home, at the hospital pretty much 24/7. So it was just an amazing thing to me that sort of community was available to people like me. Yes, well, there was a minimal charge, but when I say minimal, I mean in our country here, it was very minimal.
You compare it to hotel bills and everything, which would have been thousands.
I spent $1,000 in 5 days, right, while I was in Hamilton before we got our placement. So the rest of it was very comfortable.
So you felt this tremendous gratitude.
Yeah. So I started to realize how much of a presence Ronald McDonald House had, and I realized that people definitely need these kind of things everywhere. So I told them I'd like to release it in English and French. That's where it was going to stop for me. Being Canadian, I wanted to make sure.
Just as a tribute to your daughter and to Ronald McDonald
Yes. Well, no, not necessarily. Just to share with Ronald McDonald House. Okay. But for me, yes, as a tribute. 100%. I'm Canadian. I wanted to do it bilingually.
Yeah.
And I guess really while I was at Harris, so Madeline passed in 2010. I had a work accident in 2012 that changed my life entirely. I'm happy I survived, but it just changed my path. And so I fully committed to this after that accident. So 2012 is really when this concept started to come forth, and I knew I had to do this. So I met, again, 6 degrees of separation and just the laws of attraction. I met the Italian artist very randomly in Toronto. He was there for 3 weeks. I invited him out for coffee. I said, your voice is outstanding. If I was ever to translate this into yet another language, would you be interested in doing the Italian version? He was touched, as you said, because of the content. And he's a very busy musician in Italy, so it took some time for him to complete it. And when he finally completed it, I was just mind blown. Well, because I was now hearing it in a language I don't understand at all, and just feeling it, and the emotion translated.
It's so guided.
Oh yes, and when you hear Luisa's vocal is beautiful, but I also think
she set the bar high, Luisa.
Yes, she did. She did indeed. So what ends up happening for me, though, and I don't know if it's the same for those inside the new language, but for me, as I get further removed from the language I understand, so it's not easy for me to identify with the vocal. I don't want to say that the darkness lifts, because it's not a dark song, but the emotion that is tied into her passing lifts a little bit for me, and the delivery of each of these vocalists has had that emotion, that raw individual emotion that I feel removed. It's their own emotion now. So I'm actually uplifted now every time I hear a new version of this song, because I know somebody's put themselves into it, and they're not necessarily reliving my experience. They're just telling their friends about it.
Telling the story.
Which I love. I love that. Because it shouldn't be a sad thing. It's part of life. Unfortunately, things happen, and I just want to make sure that I put my best efforts into ensuring that the song does as much good for everybody on the planet as possible, and this is the way that I've chosen to do it. So
you are trying to monetize this, raise some money for
for charity, and obviously the company, the record label, it would be great if we started making money. I would love that. But yes, that is the third part is probably the most difficult. It's not Ronald McDonald Houses anymore. It stopped with that first one. Unfortunately, it's a corporation, and time doesn't work the same for most corporations, so there's so much bureaucracy. By the time I had released the song, Ronald McDonald House in Quebec was no longer willing to take part. So I was left without a beneficiary for the French version, and I still, to this day, am solidifying relationships in 2 different places that French is spoken natively, right? I wanted to do it here at home, and it didn't work out, and that's all that matters. But from that moment, the Italian artist informed me that maybe in other parts of the world that wouldn't be regarded as the best place for your charitable dollars to go to. So it now becomes an opportunity for the artist and the vocalist and translator and myself, on behalf of the company, deciding collectively which charities we choose. So it's very, very different depending on each version. In this case, we are trying very hard to share with both Portugal and Brazil, so there's no exclusion. It is translated and delivered in Brazilian Portuguese, but it's a common language, and we want to make sure that we're helping as many Portuguese-speaking people as possible.
I thought Portuguese was the language of Brazil. No? Is Brazilian?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
but it's a different dialect, so there's
it?
different words, and I think we used some of those, did we not? Yeah, exactly. So, point being, that's what's taking place in some places. It's not enough to give to one territory or country that speaks the language natively. It has to be shared among as many speakers as possible, because that is really what I'm trying to do with this, is just spread the love, right?
This might be a place to talk about where people can go to find it and buy it.
Yep, so it's available on all the digital stores. It's available through iTunes, through Google Play, through Deezer, through Spotify. You can go right online and right on YouTube and look at our label page, Live Large Music page. We now have 5 lyric videos up there. As a charitable relationship is solidified and I get their logo, I complete the lyric video. It's a moot point up until that point. I'm not helping them in any way. So, right. What was I going to say? I was going to talk about.
In terms of where people can go for the.
Yes. So you can find, just Google me, Scott Reid, or Littlest You, and you'll be taken directly to my music page.
All right.
Yeah, I use small links. I use tiny URLs or smart URLs. So the easiest place for anybody to find anything is to like us on Facebook, which is LLM, Live Large Music, LLM label. You can find us there. Our most recent posts are there. All the important stuff ends up there. But like I said, I don't push this stuff. Social media is a very tricky animal, and you can push too hard with social media, and I definitely do not want to push people away with over promoting ever. So I save my posts definitely for large events, but they're archived there on our label page. And in terms of our website, I've developed 4 websites already since I started this in 2012, right? Simply because it just keeps changing. So the format, everything that I wanted to accomplish in 2012 has shifted. It's grown. It's growing organically, and I can't change the way that it's growing. So updating the same website that I started in 2012 would not feel the same.
So you just create a new one.
It's time now for me to create a final one, because I need a resting place for all of these versions where I can eliminate some of that corporate dollar that iTunes takes, right, and Google Play takes. And I'd like everybody to download or stream directly from our site and monetize our site that way. But it's in progress.
What's the song called?
The song is called Littlest You.
We better play it, and I think if people have been listening, they're probably waiting to. Okay,
well, that's fantastic. I'm glad they've been waiting. That was the whole point of talking so much.
Let's hear this song.
Thank you very much, anybody listening out there. Luisa and I are going to play a never before performed variation incorporating 3 languages.
3.
Yes. So let's get it started.
Let's do it.
Sure. Yeah, I love that. See, you're the only one who's done that. Je ne te connais pas encore, mais je t'aime déjà. Cette corde entend-moi
dans un temps de joie, comme le soleil sur le montignon, nous serrons bien. Nos esprits resteront ralliés à jamais. A little less you, little less you. There you are, in my heart I'll always hold you, so I know right where you are, and I watch you grow into something so much greater than the world has known. There you are, from afar. I can't wait till I can hold you and show you all the stars, and I'll watch you grow into beauty so much greater than the world has known. There you are, from afar. In my heart I'll always hold you, so I know right where you are, and I'll watch you grow in my mind's eye, and I'll never ever let you go. Now you'll be where you're free, in a place where she can hold you and keep you safe from me, and I'll see you both when I dream, and I will never ever let you go. Little less you.
Thank you very, very much.
Beautiful.
So you may have mentioned me say a place she can hold you. So there's a little more to this story. I lost my sister in 1992, so I feel personally that my daughter went directly to her. So I have a recording that was given to me by my niece in 2013, and a piece of it has made it onto the recording, and it's my sister's voice from 1992.
Wow.
Doctored up and fixed up, and tape has gone, and it's like she's in the song with me. So
that's so special.
It's very important for me that I sing a harmony on each of these languages, and again, I sing them phonetically because there's a lot of languages.
So I was going to ask that. Are you doing that with the other?
Yes, every time.
You're contributing your.
Yeah, I'll put a harmony on. Yeah.
Wow.
So
yeah, because your voices sounded great together. Yours has got a little more gravel, a little more rock kind of voice, and you're beautiful.
Very nice.
To be quite honest, since 2010, I may have played this song 30 times. 40 at most.
That's it?
It's
I would have thought 300,
no,
400.
It's a very difficult song still for me to play.
I'm sure it is.
Especially after the musical break, because I wrote it, I know what it's about.
Yeah.
So, emotionally, I anticipate what's coming, which is unfortunate, because, as a vocalist, I'm pretty on point, but it always chokes me up, so...
I don't know how it couldn't.
I really appreciate you guys having me in, and I would love to send you links to roll, maybe to open a show another day.
Yeah, exactly.
We have 10 choices as of now, so thank you very much for having me, and I'm very happy to know you guys are here. And we will share the crap out of the link once you guys give it to us.
Definitely have that up
You'll
next
find
week.
it there very shortly.
Very, very nice.
Really, really pleased to have you in. It's quite a story.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
both
so
of
much.
you.
Very well done.
totally.
It was
So let's
beautiful,
grow this
beautifully
thing
done.
together organically.
Yes,
Takes
congratulations
time.
on the effort.
Tastes better though.
I think you have to call it a success now.
Oh, it's a
even if
huge
stopped
success.
Tomorrow, right?
It's a huge success.
Yeah, definitely.
Just the way it's-
Every new version is a huge
Yeah,
success.
every new person that embraces it, it must fill your heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Releasing the first two was a huge success. So everything that comes after that, amazing for me.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, I wanted to just touch upon the charitable aspect because it's very important people understand that if there's anybody listening still. In each territory, that is probably the hardest part at this point because these are corporations for the most part, nonprofits, but there are corporations that I'm approaching. So their back is already up. It doesn't matter how transparent and how much authenticity it is steeped in. They're automatically in that mind frame, which makes it difficult. That is the hardest relationship to solidify. So each one of those is a huge victory because I get to make a lyric video. Those are fun.
Right
Yeah, congratulations.
Scott, our sincere thanks for coming.
Thank you
Louisa,
very
beautiful
much.
job.
Definitely.
We wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
And you've been listening to ArtsTalk on 102.7 Chop FM. We're going to take you out of here with one of our favorite bands. They're called Rubella. And this is a song called Piggy.
So tune in next week. We have the one and only Must, who played just recently at the Great Go last Friday.
And is it an early show next week?
It is, yes, slightly early. So we are going to start at 5:30 next Wednesday on 102.7 Chop FM. Here's Piggy by Rubella.